Welcome to one of the best habitats I've ever done in Planet Zoo, one of the cutest ones, and to an episode with some spicy information about an upcoming Planet game of Frontier Developments. If you want to know more about that, stick with me until the very end, because then we are going to discuss the spicy information that just got released yesterday. But now, let's start on to this wonderful habitat, and here you can see a little glimpse of what we are doing today. Now, it's going to be the African penguin. Some of you guys guessed correctly in the last episode which animal is going to be here. But we have to talk quite a bit about this habitat because it's not that kind of normal habitat for several reasons. I'm going to explain now step by step. So the first thing, and you better stick with me because it's quite a different approach onto the habitat, simply because of my life situation, but also I wanted to try something. This is also one of the most focused time-lapse builds I've ever done, so the time-lapse is rather short in comparison to the usual ones and not as crazy sped up. It doesn't seem like, because since I worked so focused, I got a lot of stuff done in a very small amount of time, and how I got there I'm gonna explain in a bit. But first of all, let's talk about the habitat itself. So, this is an African penguin habitat. It makes a lot of sense to be in that location, simply because this is the unofficial African area. Why do I say unofficial? Well, basically because we said at the very beginning, well, I said, but I say we because you guys kind of agreed. So we said at the beginning that I don't want to limit myself to a certain region. So if we would call this region over here officially the African region, I kind of feel too forced to go on with the scheme of only putting African animals in. So I wanted to do whatever I felt like. And for this corner in particular over here, I wanted to have a diving animal for several reasons. We had so much different styles already that went into Zoo Sicily, and I wanted to bring a bit of balance into it, which is a lot more nature and a lot more expectable in a way, and which also deals with all the available things we had already in the park. So this habitat totally doesn't get something unique or new into the build, but it does look indeed very unique and iconic, because it uses all the things that have already been done for this park and researched, and at the end of the day also judged as being good enough for the park. So this is kind of a combination of all the things that are good for the park. Another thing that's very important about this build is that I took some inspiration from how real life areas for African penguins are laid out. So this central element that you're looking at right now is basically the classic facade to the front side, so people do only see like some stones and stuff, and really as if this is kind of the, you know, African coast, or like the African Sicilian coast. I mean, technically it's the African coast where they live in South Africa and stuff, but you know, since this is a Zoo Sicily, I wanted to make this look like as if this is the actual coast here in Sicily with all the very bright sandstone and stuff. But this obviously is always using faux rocks and fake kind of you know, stone things, because in there would be the actual backstage habitat for them, and this is what we do. So combining really how actual zoos do that, but also bring in a lot of theming and then make this kind of classical little African penguin styled beach in which they can roam around. I also took some inspiration from other people's builds, just to name some. You know, Simply Savannah is doing great builds, the same as Caesar Crates, obviously Mr. Lighter. I could name so many, but there's a huge kind of collaboration. Also Jash is amazing, and all these people working on some original zoo or some other new zoos that just popped up lately, they all do such a great job, and honestly they do a way better job than I do at the moment, simply because they put so insanely much effort into building these habitats, and they genuinely are the ones at the moment to really bring innovation to the game in terms of how they use pieces and stuff. And it's kind of a good position to be in, to finally look at other people's work and just take the best out of it, to make it usable on my own or for my own. And so I used the trick in this build, how to, you know, go on with different types of rocks. And also you'll see some later in here, I used the decals to kind of make the poop of these penguins, because usually these penguin areas look kind of crazy, even though people, like staff members, should make it or clean it quite often. It's always pretty messy, which is just the nature of them being birds at the end of the day. And birds just love to paint areas, I guess. Now, as you can see, I'm really putting in a lot of effort to make sure that this habitat looks really nice. One thing I quickly want to address before we go on with the more important part, how I got so focused for this episode. But the thing I wanted to mention is, again, and Frontier, if you're listening, please do carefully listen now. There has to be something about the navigatable, diveable area. You can see how huge this water pond is over here, and still I have like 5 or 6 animals in, and it's not even enough deep water space for them. Mainly it is because of these 4 rocks having a crazy hitbox, I assume. Like when you just take out these cobbles on the ground, it's like doubling the space to dive for them, which is ridiculous because they honestly just stick out of the bottom for like a couple of centimeters in relation. So there is something that has to be fixed, and it starts to really annoy me because I mean, there are just so many things you can deactivate in Sandbox, but one thing you can't deactivate obviously is the demand or requirement until animals start to dive. And I just don't want to make these huge ponds anymore to make these small tiny animals dive. Like, there are only 2 ways to make that look good. The one way is going to just, well, ignore diving, I guess, and just pretend they would be diving, because they're clearly not. Or you have to be very crazy with the amount of animals that go in, but then again, the animals still don't dive because there is not enough room for them to dive because there are too many of them. So yeah, that has to be fixed. It really starts to become a serious issue, especially for smaller animals. Like, it really isn't that big of an issue for like seals or sea lions, because they're so big and they don't feel so lost in these big tanks, you know. But especially these small animals like the small clawed otter or the African penguin in particular, it is so crazy because they require so much space in order to be able to dive, that it just kind of feels a little bit off here and there. Anyhow, as you can see, we are quite far into the build, and I'm already starting to detail quite a lot. As you can see, this is the way how you use poop. You really have to see which decal you use. This one is from the moss pieces, and it works just super well. And putting in a lot of detail, and it just really makes a difference, I'm not gonna lie. But I think 80% of the design of this habitat was created in the car. Now, don't worry, I didn't do that while driving or painting or anything, but at the moment we are very much in the move. In the move, however, we are moving houses. So basically what happens at the moment is that we are moving from one house to another, and we currently own a flat in one city, but we are moving into a big house with a garden. For those of you who don't know, I talked about that already last year. We bought this like over half a year ago, but we kind of bought it to the 1st of January, making sure that this is like kind of a clean cut. But we sold our flat that we bought 4 years ago for the 1st of March. So at the moment we have a difference of 2 months, and in these 2 months most of things have to happen. And as you can imagine, that is a ridiculous amount of stress at the moment, because nearly every day I have to, move from A to B, and it's like 40 kilometers away, so it's not that easy. It's like 80 kilometers on top each day. So as you can imagine, especially with winter weather and rain and people going crazy anyways, the time spent on the highway is quite some time. And so there's a lot of time to think about things, and there is just so many things I can think about until, obviously, I think about Planet Zoo again. And so I thought about this very location so much that whenever I had a very spare bit of time, and that wasn't that much, trust me, in the last days, I needed to use that time as efficiently as possible. Now, I know that many people ask me how I am so efficient, and I already asked that in the past, and to be honest, I never felt like this because I had quite some time to do that. But especially at the moment, or specifically at the moment, I don't have that much time, and I think this is a very good example of how you can also become super efficient in the game. Now, I really try to plan out everything in my head, and just like as soon as I had one thought, completely done. I just wrote it down into my notes app on the phone. And so after a while, I had like a couple of things noted down, and that was the first moment where I thought, okay, if I've got an hour of time, I'm gonna have these things done. And so I did the base layout, and effectively I only have 3 recordings because I did the whole habitat in 3 goes. The first one was making sure, and also I set myself some clear goals, you know. I thought in the first hour I wanted to get the layout done, just the pure layout, making sure that we have enough navigatable area for the animals and blah blah blah, putting the habitat boundaries in, you name it. The second one was to get the basic shapes, the basic look and feel, the styling elements and stuff like that. And the third one was meant for detailing and the guest needs. As you can tell with this little showcase area over here, or the education area, I want to say it's not a showcase, it's an educational area. And you can really tell from all of this that there's a lot I thought about, because the placement of this staircase is really planned out, because you do have this nice little area in the middle where the educator can stand. You do see the animals diving around, but you also have that platform right across the other side where the animals can swim and then, you know, come up there with this mirror tool, or, you know, imagine there are some fish thrown over or stuff like that, so you can really see the animals act and do and dwell. And everything else, like the beach and stuff, is put to a different location so that the people standing on top of this little hill over here do not interfere with the people sitting on this educational space, so that they're not in the way of the other people. And there's something I wanted to test for a while now, and this, as you can see, is with all these potteries here, all these pots down, and just putting a couple of plants in. I think this is something you usually do see in Sicily quite a lot. Like everywhere you've got these terracotta pots with a couple of plants in, tomatoes, oranges, whatnot. And I just wanted to have that, and some of those will be reused as blueprint throughout the entire park, because I think this is quite nice, and we can also integrate some Easter eggs, you know. But yeah, the last couple of minutes should be taken to talk about what I just announced at the very beginning of the time lapse. We need to talk about Frontier's annual report. Just a day ago, there was the annual report published from the year 2022. Now, you do have to know Frontier does publish 2. They have the fiscal year report. That one already was published quite a while ago, because the fiscal year only goes from May to May. So that means the fiscal year 22 was already done in May 22. So obviously since then we didn't have the info. But then there's like the annual conclusion, like the full year report, and that one always has a lot of spicy info. And the one info that is in particular super spicy is that for 2024, a new own IP creative management game has been announced, that they will release it in that game in that year. So meaning an own IP obviously can only be either the Elite IP or the Planet IP, because these are the only 2 IPs that Frontier owns. Or they obviously go with something else, but since it's creative management, it's definitely not Elite, and so it has to be a Planet game. So now you can make up yourself what you think it is. I think it's Planet Coaster 2. However, I do not really know. Maybe Frontier is going to surprise us and brings out a completely new Planet game, which would be super exciting. But finally, you have confirmation there will be a new Planet game. 99% sure it will be there, which is super cool, and I'm super excited for that. But it also means that there's not going to be any Planet game or successor like Planet Coaster in 2023, because that's for Warhammer and F1 23. Now, with that said, let's move over to the real-time Rudy to take it on from here. There we are with these spicy news of a new Planet game coming. We are in the real time. Just to, also just to make sure, it's not confirmed that it is a Planet game, but it is like 100% likely. It's not sure, but it's super likely that it is, because everything else wouldn't really make sense. I mean, creating new franchise, yes, could be nice, but honestly though, they have every ingredient they need. And also, one thing that is also super spicy from that annual report is that Planet Zoo, being a PC-only game, performs as great as Jurassic World Evolution, their actually best doing game. And honestly, it is actually on the verge to become even better. Have you guys seen what I have seen? Have you guys seen what I have seen? Wait, sorry, have you seen this jump? Did Frontier sneak something in I have not noticed? I will definitely have to check the footage afterwards. No! Oh my goodness me! They have! Oh my god, I totally lost what I wanted to say, but this is definitely new. I haven't seen that. I mean, I have seen the little like bump when they came out of the water, but I've not seen that intentional jump. I'm not sure if that's a bug or if this was just like one of the animations going nuts. I will have to double check that, but this looked almost like an intentional jump, which I'm not even sure if these animals do this. Okay, let me just grab my thought for a second again. My god, this view over here is also pretty neat. I just forgot that this looks pretty cool. Now, it makes a lot of sense for Frontier to you know, bring out a Planet game because they have all the ingredients at hand, and why would they do something else? That was just my thought, just to finish that here. I hope it was exactly that. But yeah, let's continue with our little walkthrough, because I think this area over here gives you a good idea of what I wanted to achieve with this area. So they have like a bit more of a private pool down here to the left hand side, which is only accessible from the inside. Let me just quickly show you. I mean, the inside isn't done. There's a floaty plant, and then if we go around here, you've got this underground view, or like it's actually like a semi-underground view. It's cool for kids, and it's quite decent for grown-ups, and it's quite meh for very, very big people. But the whole building here is very meh for very big people, to be honest. I need to fix the height a little bit. It's like a tiny tad too small. I mean, we can argue it's like an old building. That's fine, but it's not like that old, you know. People have been smaller in the past. Okay, granted, but this is like a, you know, a theme park, and you definitely wouldn't do that. It's so good looking. I love it. So yeah, if we go down here, and this is my favorite area here with like the little educational spot, simply because I think it just fits so well in here with like this little, it just really feels organically filled into the area, rather than just being a slap down kind of terrace thing or whatnot, or like a staircase thing. And so if you stand here, you have exactly this view. This is what I meant, you know, you've got the little area in front, you've got the animals on this little, you know, kind of piece of land. It's not big though, but you know, and then you've got this educational spot down here, which is nicely covered up, you know. I'm playing a little bit with the theme of Sicily and stuff, and yeah, just in general, the more I see it, by the way, in the background, I think it's just a little issue with like the diving animation playing a bit above water level, but which is cool, don't get me wrong, but I think it is not really meant to be a jump, is it? If it is, anyways, the diving in here looks super cool now. It looks really good. I mean, the fix I did, as you can see, there are barely any kind of rocks on the ground. There was no other way of achieving this, but it looks freaking cool now with them all going nuts in the water. Can you just not go into my way? Gosh, it looks so cool. Really, really nice. I love it. So yeah, if we just go up a little, zoom in, this is the view you get, and I think this is a fantastic view from over here. It really shows you, I mean, is this intentional, guys? There's even, like, there was even that little animation of getting back into the water. I almost feel like it is intentional. See there? This is where they just plop back into the water. It's not really a splash, but they're like super they're not aerodynamic, but they're like super dynamic in the water. I forgot the name. You guys told me once what's the name for like being very efficient underwater. There was like a what was it again? I know the German word for once, but yeah, I won't get it in English. Something like with stream kind of form, whatever. I don't get it. Yeah, just look at that. Excuse me. Oh, we got a Jesus penguin over here. Let's have a little looky look while we end the episode over here. I'm just gonna stay here and we see if more of this jumping happens, because I have a feeling there is something in here. But yeah, it's a good point to end today's episode and speak about what is going on in the future of the channel and in the future. That is totally intentional. I did not know that they do this. Okay, but we're gonna have to talk about the future of this project especially, and the future of Planet Zoo. Now, that moment I told you about the annual report, the most spicy info I haven't even said. The most spicy info I saved for last, and I really hope you guys stick with me until now, because if you haven't, well, you lost out on some very, 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 very important information. So, you watching this video, I assume you are big fans of Planet Zoo. Well, good news. We will get at least 4 more DLCs, because it also confirmed that we will have DLCs, paid DLCs, throughout the entire fiscal year 24, which is until the 24? No, that's correct. Which is until May 24. That's what it is. So we will have a full year of DLCs coming, which is super exciting, because that means support is definitely going to be longer than it was with Planet Coaster. Support is definitely going to have a lot more chances to implement stuff. So maybe we do see some bigger DLCs that we haven't thought about anymore, and I kind of lost a little bit of my hope for as well. So there we are. We have some more hope, and I really do hope that yeah, this pays out at the end of the day. So what we are going to do, obviously, we take it a little bit slower with Zoo Sicily to really make sure we have a decent performance until the next DLC hits, to see what Frontier really is going to do in the future. And also, I really want to focus now on getting all the left out stuff, like the interiors done, and surely we are going to do a habitat next time around, but then maybe I'm going to try to have a live stream fixing the backstage areas or stuff like that. Really, really hoping that this works, and now it's up to you guys to put down a lot of comments. First one being, what do you think? What is that creative management game that Frontier is going to be releasing next year? And also, second thing, what do you think we should add next to this park? Well, I'm quite open to that. So let's hear all of your opinions. And if you do want to make this a even better experience, please make sure to subscribe to my channel to be always notified whenever there's a new video and new spicy information of the games that you love. And also, if you guys loved that video and you want to see more, to the top right, there's another video you may like. Until then, have a good time, stay safe, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Goodbye.